We're back again with another underrated team video, except I decided on a different title change. This team is technically the second best team, or the silver medal team, so I thought the title would be fitting. But anywho, today we find ourselves back in the region of Hoenn. Hoenn has a pretty interesting selection of Pokemon to use. Some I've actually slept on, especially for the newer gens. This Hoenn run is going to capture both the originals and the remix though. The decks and locations are pretty much the same. The only real difference is the physical special split. Due to that, some of the mons I pick for this team will obviously be better in Gen 6, but they are still viable for a Gen 3 run. This team will be oriented more for ORAS, but it can still work for Gen 3. So with that, other than Mystic Reads, let's begin. So in this segment, I was actually contemplating on whether or not I wanted to use Sceptile. I came to the conclusion, however, that we can get a grass typing and a great secondary typing in one, so I dismissed it. We'll get into that in just a sec though. For the first mon entering this team, we of course have a flyer. Now, I am aware I've used Swellow a few times on a best team, but I still feel I never gave it enough credit despite that. If you utilize Swellow's Guts capabilities, this regional bird can decimate anything in its path. Even without Guts though, it's still not bad. But with Guts, the attack stat on Swellow becomes enormous. Plus, you get it right at the beginning of the game, and it evolves fairly quick at level 22. If you bring Swellow with Guts in the Elite Four, just slam him with Facade, and that damage will rack up. You don't technically need a flyer for ORAS, but Swellow is still fantastic nonetheless, and it will serve as the filler normal type that I usually put on these teams. For Swellow's moveset, clearly we're going to be using Facade alongside Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, and Return. Facade can be bought at the Mauville Pokemart for 10k Pokédollars. Aerial Ace can be learned via level up at 21, Steel Wing can be given to you by Steven after meeting him in Granite Cave, and Return can be given to you by an NPC in Pacific Town by showing a Pokemon that is really friendly to you. So that grass Pokemon I mentioned earlier with the great secondary typing is Brelum. Brelum, I've honestly slept on, and I've always chosen Hariyama over it. Now that I think about it, Hariyama should technically be here, and Brelum should be on the best team. Maybe a best team for ORAS Remastered is necessary. It's just better. It has the grass type, Mach Punch hits pretty hard with that base 130 physical attack, in Gen 6 it gets Seed Bomb, etc. In Generation 3, it still works very well as just a fighting type though, so don't really worry about the grass type being special. Despite the grass typing, I'm still picking it because it's a great fighting type. It sucks Technician is a hidden ability, because if it was easier accessible for a playthrough, it would decimate even more, especially with Mach Punch. You could realistically hunt for a hidden ability Shroomish, but that's entirely up to you. With or without it, Brelum will perform well for in-game. Oh, and you can find Shroomish in Petalburg Woods, and it evolves into Brelum at level 23. For Brelum's moveset, I'm gonna go with Mach Punch, Seed Bomb, Sky Uppercut, and Rock Slide. Mach Punch can be learned at level 23, Seed Bomb can be learned at level 44, Sky Uppercut can be learned at level 39, and Rock Slide can be found as a TM on Route 32 and the Surfing Water Maze next to Pacific Town. In Gen 3, just use whatever grass type you got available. Giga Drain is probably the best option you got. And instead of Rock Slide, you can go with Rock Tomb for a speed drop. That can be earned from Roxanne. Up next is a veteran of this second best team series, being Kadabra. I've mentioned how good Kadabra is in the last two videos I've done in this series, so not a lot has changed. Abra can also be found relatively early like previous gens, being obtainable in Granite Cave. Have fun with Teleport though. 105 speed and 120 special attack is pretty deadly for a non-fully evolved Pokemon, as I always say. Also, unlike previous gens where Kadabra's pool is a little more shallow, in Gen 6 it does improve by a bit. You'll see shortly in the moveset. Other than that though, just spamming Psychic will usually get you the same result. And coverage isn't everything if you have an extremely high special attack stat with Psychic. I just like to make sure all ends are covered, which you will see in Kadabra's moveset. For Kadabra's moveset, we got Psychic, Shadow Ball, Calm Mind, and Dazzling Gleam. Psychic is obviously going to be the main power for Kadabra, being learned at level 38. Of course, use any earlier learned Psychic moves until then. Shadow Ball will be great for coverage, and that can be found at Mount Pyre. Calm Mind can be earned as a TM by defeating Tate and Liza, and Dazzling Gleam can be given to you by a female NPC near the Berrymaster's house. If you're playing Gen 3, sub out Dazzling Gleam for Thief, and Shadow Ball for Shockwave, unless you're fine with using Kadabra's base 35 attack stat. At the second half of the team, we have a pretty dope water type that I don't really talk about a lot actually. Plus, we get 2 great typings in one, with water and dark. Sharpedo is insanely underrated, even in Gen 3. Regardless of if the water and dark type are special in this gen, base 95 special attack and speed is still pretty good to work with nonetheless. If you're playing Gen 6 though, you get to utilize that 120 physical attack stat. Carvana can be caught on Route 118 using the Good Rod. It will then evolve into Sharpedo at level 30. The dark typing on this thing is great, because now we got something for Phoebe and Tate and Liza. I usually use Absol for the dark type slot, but Sharpedo is actually better in my opinion. Priority with Aquajet, Assurance at level 15, Ice Fang at level 25, and Surf upon getting it is definitely pretty good. But with that said, let's get into that moveset though. Sharpedo's moveset is going to consist of Surf/Waterfall, Crunch, Ice Fang, and Earthquake. Surf and Waterfall can both be obtained at their respective spots in the story. Crunch can be learned at level 40, Ice Fang, like I mentioned earlier, can be learned at level 25, and Earthquake can be found as a TM in the Seafloor Cavern. For Gen 3, simply swap out Ice Fang for either Ice Beam or Blizzard. Honestly, you can do that for Gen 6 too if you want. Now for our electric type. Usually I pick Magnetric, but today we do have something slower. But it's no strangers to my vids being Magneton. Magneton comes equipped with the Steel Electric type, and it's got some power backed behind it. 120 base special attack is nothing to sneeze at, and even if you don't take into consideration its Steel typing usage in Gen 3, it's still fine as just an Electric type. Gen 6 does allow it for better Steel type moves, and of course the physical special split being abolished. But even then, Thunderbolt is really all that's needed for both gens. Magnemite can be caught at New Mauville right after getting access to Surf. It then evolves into Magneton at level 30. Now, if you are playing Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I do believe it is possible to get Magnezone pre-post game. According to some comments I read on how to evolve Magneton into Magnezone, you just need to level it up once in New Mauville. But if this is wrong, Magneton will still suffice. For a moveset, like I said, all you really need is Thunderbolt. For Gen 6, use Mirror Shot and Tri-Attack. The rest, I leave up to you guys. For Gen 3, that also applies. Good luck. Lastly, we have our ground type, and this is going to be one of those cases where we do some switching around. Firstly, capture Geodude in Granite Cave. That will be useful for Watson, and if it evolves into Graveler in the process, cool. 100 base defense on Geodude should still be good enough, but if you want that extra base 15 defense and HP on Graveler, it wouldn't hurt. Brelum should still be able to handle Magneton though with Mach Punch if things get dicey. After beating Watson, swap it out for Numel. Honestly, you could keep Graveler, but I think Camerupt is more fun to use with that fire typing, and it's got some pretty sweet special attack and physical attack. Numel can be found on Route 112 after defeating Watson. It sucks you can't get it earlier, or else a swapping wouldn't need to take place. Rock Smash is indeed poopy. You will have to wait a tad to evolve Numel into Camerupt, but it's not the worst timing in the world. Camerupt is slow, but it's underrated, especially for in-game. The speed is the reason why I held back from using it, but this is the perfect time to use it for an underrated team. It's also got a pretty decent level up set too for both games. The moveset we're going for on our last Pokemon is going to be Lava Plume, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and Curse. Lava Plume can be learned at level 22. Earthquake can be learned via level up as well. Or, if you're not level 46 by then, the TM for it is also available at the spot I mentioned earlier. Rock Slide can be learned at level 33, and Curse can be learned at level 29. All things considered, this moveset is really good for something that can be learned via level up. For Gen 3 too, the moveset is still relatively the same, except Flamethrower can be bought at the Mauville Game Corner, Earthquake can be learned at level 37, and Rock Slide can also be learned again at level 33. I guess instead of running Curse, you could use Toxic for Gen 3. The TM for that can be found in the Fiery Path after obtaining Strength. Well, that pretty much wraps up the second best team for Hoenn. All things considered, I've slept on these Pokemon for quite a while, and to be honest, I kinda wish I would have done a best team for Oras Remastered with some of these Mons on here. But I'm not gonna bother with that, because I've already got way too many remastered best teams. Anywho though, what'd you guys think of the team? Would you swap anything out? Let me know your thoughts down below. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching my content. With Scarlet and Violet DLC on the way, we have a lot to be excited for. Not just that though, but I've got a bunch of other cool series planned throughout the year that I'm sure you guys will love. If you want to support my other forms of content, over on Mystic Reads, I read fanfics. One of them right now is Road to be a Pokemon Master Kanto Edition, where Ash and Serena start from the very beginning and journey through Kanto together. On Mystic Umbreon Shorts, I do other exclusive Pokemon content such as Pokemon Facts, and on Saturdays, I upload my top 5 favorite Pokemon of a type. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an excellent day.